It's important to remember how the Lord saved and delivered us. What were the circumstances of God's deliverance and salvation in your life? Today's key verse reads, "And this day shall be unto you for a memorial, and ye shall keep it as a feast to the Lord throughout your generations. Ye shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever." Exodus chapter 12, verse 14. The Passover commemorates God's deliverance of the children of Israel from Egyptian slavery. Jacob and his sons had left the land God promised them because of a widespread famine. Over time, Jacob's descendants had become so plentiful that the Egyptian Pharaoh became fearful that the Jews would take over his country, so he put them in slavery. This Pharaoh went so far as to order the death of all Hebrew baby boys. Moses, a Hebrew boy who was saved from the slaughter through God's intervention, was led by God to bring his people out of bondage. God ordered Moses to lead the children of Israel into Palestine, the land he had promised to Abraham. However, the Pharaoh refused to release the Israelites. Even though God sent 9 plagues to make the Pharaoh change his mind, the ruler's heart was hardened, and he steadfastly refused. Now God would send the 10th and final devastating plague. In ancient Israel, the family was the most basic form of social organization. It provided identity, protection, goods, and resources. Unlike the individualistic faith many observe now, religion in ancient times was communal, beginning at the family level and expanding to include the entire community. There was no concept of individual religious observation in the ancient world. An individual's behavior could have an harmful effect on an entire community, which is why the covenant between Israel and the Lord was with all the people, not just a few individuals. The people are told to select an unblemished male sheep or goat that was a year old or younger, and keep it with the household for 4 days leading up to the Passover. The young lamb or goat then would have become part of the household, and the family would mourn its eventual sacrifice. Here we see that God requires the sacrifice to be personal. We want to remember that Jesus, the Son of God, lived with the human family before he was required to sacrifice his life for them. On the night before the Exodus, the Lord would pass through the land of Egypt, bringing the plague of death to the firstborn males, humans, and animals that did not have the sign of the blood on the post at the threshold to their houses. Not even the gods of Egypt would be spared judgment. Ancient peoples, including the Israelites, before the monarchy, acknowledged the existence of multiple gods. However, the Israelites believed that the Lord, their God, was above all the others. The Hebrew word for Passover is Pesach. The explanation given for the meaning of the word Passover is that the Lord would pass over, Pesach, those households where the Israelites resided, indicated by the blood on the post. The blood did not have a protective power, but was rather a sign to Israel. The Lord was more than aware which houses contained faithful Israelite families. This was not for the Lord's sake, but for those who were spared to know that he would do what he promised. Here's our lesson. In the Pentateuch and in Judaism, Passover commemorates God physically delivering the Israelites from slavery and protecting their firstborn in the process. The passage and the festival serve as a reminder that our God is a God who is involved in people's lives. In a sermon delivered to Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery, Alabama on April 7, 1957, Martin Luther King Jr. proclaimed, "And I say to you this morning, my friends, rise up and know that as you struggle for justice, you do not struggle alone, but God struggles with you, and he is working every day." Passover serves as an annual reminder of God's willingness and ability to struggle with and for us against oppression. It also serves as an annual opportunity to thank God for all of the continuing work of salvation in our lives. Thank you so much for listening and subscribing to iLights. May the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus.